Chapter 1. We've all seen the movies and TV shows, read the books and graphic novels, and played the video games. We grew up on them. I remember being 8 years old, curled up in the sofa with my mom and a big bowl of popcorn watching the 1968 black and white version of George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, and swearing to her that I wasn't scared. In truth, I was close to peeing myself, I was so terrified. From that point on, I was addicted to the genre. Not addicted like so many others of my generation. I didn't play the Left 4 Dead video games, mostly because I never liked playing video games, despite being from the video game generation. I didn't read the graphic novels that AMC based their television show The Walking Dead on, but I watched the show religiously. I read a large number of the young adult and adult zombie novels that sprouted up, but not all of them, like those who were much more entranced by the creatures than I was, did. At first, no one wondered about the sudden influx in zombie entertainment. We loved the stories, loved being scared shitless, and loved seeing the good guys, for the most part, kick some undead ass. But the older my generation got, and the more popular the genre became, the more we began to think, to look back on things, and to examine the world around us. For some, mostly the crazies who looked everywhere for conspiracies, it started with a comic book turned television show. We were both elated and weary of the idea of the show in the beginning. Sure, we liked to see such things on the big screen, but every Sunday night in the privacy of our own home, that seemed too personal. But when the show aired, everyone who watched was hooked. For the majority of us, it was the growing popularity of zombie marches that started in cities like Chicago, Boston, Miami, Houston, Iowa City, LA, and eventually spread to much smaller towns like mine that got us thinking something more was going on with the influx of interest in zombies. I didn't start to take notice until these marches turned into events that lasted whole weekends. At these events, people that in the beginning we assumed were your average Janes and Joes started offering defense lessons on how to fight and where to shoot a zombie, how to clothe yourself to prevent a zombie from biting you, how to safeguard your home, office, or car from being overrun by zombies, what kinds of meats a person could eat and not get infected. Can you believe these people suggested eating cats? People blew them off initially. They walked by their booths and smiled indulgently, then went back to taking pictures of their friends and neighbors in their zombie costumes. Occasionally, some played along with the demonstrations, and when those watching from the sidelines realized that the people manning these booths were serious and knew what they were talking about, they began to take notice. When one of these events hit my small town, my spidey senses went on red alert. I could see doing them in larger cities where you had a wider diversity of people who would be interested in attending. Yeah, a large number of people in my hometown were zombie fans, just like the rest of the world, but we weren't fanatics. Mostly, my town was a retirement town. There were no nightclubs or strip bars within driving distance. We didn't have a Hot Topic in our mall. We didn't have a Starbucks, let alone a comic book store. We did have a church on every corner and 3 bingo halls. Why was I, a 27-year-old single woman, living there, you ask? Well, that would be because my parents had me when they were in their late 30s and early 40s, and when I was 10, we moved there because they were tired of what they called the big city. My high school graduating class barely had 50 people in it. That's how few young couples lived in the town. Most of my classmates moved off the day after graduation. I did as well, but only long enough to get my degree. Then I came back to teach English at my alma mater. When Zombie Fest, which was what it was called by the time it reached us a couple of years before the outbreak, arrived at Gates, my hometown, I attended, to the delight of my students and the disgust of my fellow teachers who were all 10 or more years older than I was. How could I not go, with all the writers I love listed on the docket to read from their novels, hold Q&As, and sign anything you put in front of them? The flyers posted around town made the event look interesting, but the list of writers who would be attending to discuss their next book was what had my attention. I was not passing up the opportunity to get Ilsa Bick, Jonathan Mabry, Travis Adkins, and Myra Grants, to name a few of the authors attending our show.